Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's our privilege today to welcome all of you, and specifically Captain William Swenson and his girlfriend Kelsey Long, who have graciously offered to come by and visit our clinic. First person I'd like to introduce to officially welcome you all is the Dean of the Law School, John Corkery.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and particularly thank you to Captain William Swenson and Senator Mark Kirk and Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth. We're so happy you're able to be here, and we're very honored to be in your presence today. And also welcome Alderman Ray Suarez, who's sitting there too. So thanks so much. It's a great day for us. We're celebrating our Veterans Clinic and the many things that we do. And an event like today takes a lot of things around the country and kind of brings them right home, back home to us. Our students spend hours every week in the classroom, but events like this provides us with a real opportunity to bring people and events of national and indeed international significance back to our campus. And lessons learned on a day like today are remembered long after our students graduate. And I think I can say to all our students here, long after you get out of your law school, you're going to remember this day. It's going to be one of the days that you do recall, and recall fondly, I think, about John Marshall. As I said, it is my great pleasure to welcome Senator Mark Kirk and Congressman Tammy Duckworth, Vice Mayor Ray Suarez, and Alderman Balzer. Your attendance here today underscores the achievements of our guest of honor. For Captain Swenson, it's a privilege and an honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much for your service. I know we cannot thank you enough, but we will do what we can. We are so looking forward to what you might say to us. Thanks also for letting us share in your celebration. I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You are an inspiration to our community and to everyone, I think. And now I'm going to turn this back to Brian Klaus, with my thanks for all he has done to make this day possible and to bring this event off. The reputation of our clinic under Brian's leadership changes lives for vets, and I don't think that's an overstatement. And the work here does inspire and shapes veterans clinics in other law schools across the country. And this event today reminds us of the good work that can be done for and by the men and women who have served our country with valor and dignity. Brian Klaus, thank you so much for all the work you and your staff do. Brian?
Thank you, sir. Now, I know everybody gets a little afraid when the lawyer takes the piece of paper out of his pocket. Fear not. It's just written really big because I forgot where I left my glasses. Welcome, William. Welcome, Kelsey. Thank you for joining us. I have the privilege of running this Veterans Clinic. Most of you know the story. Over 1,000 calls a year, 400 volunteer attorneys, staff attorneys, clinical students. We assist vets day in, day out, and it's frankly rather humbling. These are the people who run towards the gunfire on our behalf, and there's a fair number of them in this room. We just have a showing of hands for our vets. In addition to the captain, there's two vets I want to single out because they were instrumental in getting this program started. Senator, a number of years ago, a law student and I came up to visit you in your office, and you gave us some very sound advice. And I love telling this story about when Tammy was the director of the state, and thank you for that, Senator. It was absolutely sage advice, and we followed it, and look what we've done. What John's done. He wrote the checks. And I love telling the story about Tammy. When she was head of the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, I got a call from her general counsel who said, Brian, Tammy heard about what you're doing at the law school with those students, and she's got this discretionary lottery money and wanted to know if 50 or 100 would help. And I said, oh, sure, just tell her to send a check. Muffled couple of voices. She was probably saying something to her attorney. He got back on the phone and she said, no, she meant 1,000, you idiot. So I put her in touch with the dean. So we're here to serve our vets, our students. We do that in our community. We do that with our staff, with our volunteers. I think, where's Frank? Frank, recently featured in the Tribune this week. He just obtained $177,000 in back benefits for a World War II vet. Thank you, Frank. One of the privileges of being the executive director of this project is I get to be the public face that gets all the thanks. I don't deserve it. It's our students, our staff attorneys, our faculty, our administration, and our volunteer attorneys. And one of the people who does deserve a lot of this praise is Tom White. Where's Tom? Come on up here, Tom. Tom joined us this past spring after he retired as a law professor at West Point for 5 years. We were very lucky to get him. It's a tremendous get for this project. He brings a wealth of knowledge. And he didn't just get that knowledge through Officers Candidate School. Tom started out as an enlisted private in the Army.
They kicked me out of school. I had to.
Went back to college. Went to Officers Candidate School, then went to law school, and then got his LLM here. Went to Iraq and came back and spent his last 5 years instructing cadets at West Point. I don't deserve to introduce Captain Swenson. Tom will do that. And ladies and gentlemen, I would... oh, and one thing before I let Tom get to it. You saw some note cards. William, Kelsey, it's a room full of lawyers. They tend to be long-winded, so we made them write down all their questions. So if there's students around, give them the note cards. If you haven't turned them in, we've got a fair number of them. We'll try and work our way through them. But yeah, put it on a note card and hand it to a student. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom White.
Well, I'd first like to thank William and Kelsey for coming today. It makes this all the more special. And Senator and Congressman, I appreciate your presence here today. When you could come up, I'd like to chat a little bit about something before. I'm going to go off script. I think we would both be a little more comfortable with that. But I went yesterday to the luncheon, and I listened to a few things that you were answered. It made me think a lot about my own time and those who I had served with. But I also thought about there's this saying. I think Andy Warhol brought up. Everyone will experience 15 minutes of fame, and I think it's not going to work for you. It's going to be much longer than 15 minutes. Now, 15 minutes for me, being from Mississippi, is involving poaching a cross-country or cross-county chase in News at 11. That would be my 15 minutes, but we won't digress to that. I did a little looking into Seattle University, and it says a lot about, I think, your character, and a lot about what being a leader is, because obviously that's their mission statement, is to produce leaders and treat those humanely. I think having the opportunity to serve with other soldiers and having soldiers served under me, you don't really appreciate it until you get into a pickle, as we might call it down south. But as well as you said yesterday, the thing about we don't care what's going on in D.C. That 8,000 mile pointer that comes across every now and then to tell us what to do, it really doesn't come down to that. What it comes down to is that person to your left and your right. That's who you're really fighting for. That's who you're really there for, and that's what it's all about. And Captain Swenson, I appreciate you coming today. I think I'll let you speak now. You have a few words of impart on us about leadership, and I appreciate that.
So I find myself in a room that my LSAT scores probably would not have brought me to otherwise. So, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not as long-winded. But I am beginning to like to hear myself talk. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for what you do, because when you leave the military, as a veteran, you know that there's a contractual obligation that the military has to you. It's written down on paper, you signed your name next to it, and you understand that you have benefits and entitlements, but it's not part of the social contract. And that's where you step in, because every bureaucracy has problems. And as veterans, there's a lot of complexities in the civilian world that we just simply are not good at adapting to in rapid order. And that's where that social contract comes in. That's where you come in. And that's where you get to help veterans readjust and reacclimate and re-engage a new world, civilian society. And that's an important role. I know personally from my own battles with the VA, my own battles with moving from the military to a civilian world, that sometimes you need help. And not everyone is in a good position for that. But that's where you guys come in. And I thank you for picking up where I left off. I thank you for looking after my team, because the military is my team, and you are now better positioned to help them than I am. So thank you.
Thank you. We're not going to let you get away without a few questions that we've pre-selected, and then I screened a few of them because I had to, or censored, whatever you want to call it. But our first question is, Captain Swenson, you're a pretty hot-looking guy. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. That's it. I didn't know you. Okay. Are you considering a public role, perhaps?
For me, I'm in uncharted waters. I'm currently representing a system. I'm currently representing all of us, actually. I mean, the military represents all of us. And the responsibility that comes with this medal is to tell a story, to talk about my team, and talk about our fighting force, which speaks to us as a nation. Do I know what's next? Heavens no. I didn't plan up until about 2 weeks ago, so everything beyond this is new to me.
I think that's pretty succinct.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. More on the lines of our team. What are you hearing from other veterans about services that are needed?
Well, especially for our younger soldiers whose lives in the military maybe started at 17, 18, they were just beginning to develop their life and become adults. And they did that in a system that is very regimented, doesn't give you a lot of latitude to make mistakes. And when you do make mistakes, they're quickly corrected. And when these guys decide that they've done their service and they have done so honorably and they need to transition on into a new world, they have difficulty basically changing their language, their vocabulary, literally and figuratively. They don't know how to come out of the military every single time with the necessary cultural shift, the necessary vocabulary to speak to civilian employers or to speak to a legal system, which is unique to them. They're used to UCMJ. They're used to the swift justice of a drill sergeant or the swift justice of a company commander. So it's a different world. But again, that's a role that you're filling. Obviously, careers, that's a big one. Medical assistance for a lot of our returning veterans, PTSD, TBI, things like that. These are issues that we're just now beginning to address effectively. But the legal aspect of this truly is probably the missing piece, because that's how the world works. That is what binds our society. We are a nation of laws. So navigating those laws, again, thank you.
We have a number of clinic students that are actually currently going to be going off into the service. We have a Marine officer. She'll be attending the Marine course and then on to the Naval Justice School. We have a couple of others that will be heading off to the Army JAG Corps. What advice would you give them, kind of coming at it from a commander's perspective, knowing that they're going to be that legal advisor, typically to a company commander?
I've met a few JAG officers in my time, and they probably found themselves in locations they never expected to be. Well, firstly, dealing with me. But I will tell you that if you're going into the legal services of the military, I have encountered JAG officers out at some of the most remote corners of Afghanistan and Iraq because there is still a legal process in the military. There still is UCMJ. And there still are laws that need to be navigated. And I've seen those JAG officers come off those helicopters wearing their kit poorly, not too sure what they're doing out there and wondering if they need a bigger gun. But you know, it's a necessary role. And they go out there and they help our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine navigate difficult decisions that they've made. War isn't always easy. War is messy. There is law of land warfare. Sometimes there's violations. Sometimes there's investigations. So as a JAG officer, you may find yourself in a remote location, but you are always supporting that service member, and you're always supporting our military. But just be prepared. You may not be sitting on a nice comfy base with a golf course. You can find yourself in some pretty remote locations quick.
Well, yeah, I'll have to second that one. Last question I have for you. You're the first officer since Vietnam to receive the Medal of Honor. Any particular feelings about that?
From OIF and OEF, we now have a total of 6 living recipients. And the enlisted person really picks up the burden of fighting. It's really up to the enlisted and to the NCOs to carry the weight of actual direct combat. They tell you early on in your career as an officer, if you're shooting, you've done something wrong. I was in a slightly more unique situation. So in this case, I did have to pick up that weapon and do my job, both as a leader and a combatant. But it carries with it great responsibility, because now I have to represent the officer corps. And that's a unique challenge. The expectations are different, and I now carry that weight as well as the weight of the medal. I hope I do so honorably, because I'm still figuring this out as I go.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, and as tradition, and definitely in the Army, I don't know about the Navy, sir, but we have what is called a challenge coin, and each unit typically has their own coin. A few years back, they took the appropriated funding away from allowing battalion commanders and below to blow their money on making really fancy coins, and so you had to go make your own and pay for them yourself. Well, the clinic went out, and we have our own coin, and I would like to present that to you as a small token of our appreciation.
Stick around, Tom. Yeah, you dissed a senator. Thank you. You want to diss Tammy too?
No.
All right.
That's great.
Now, Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong. As proof that the Army has a sense of humor, they made you safety officer, correct, when you came back?
Oh, better than that. They made me an aviation safety officer.
Everybody here knows how proud we are of our staff and our students. And one of the things we're very proud of is our publication record. We've done a lot of things in the Supreme Court with various books, articles. People joke that we would go to the opening of a refrigerator if they'd let us talk about veterans issues. 2 things we're very proud of, and I'd like to present these to you, is one is called the Legal Guide for Military Families. We partnered with the American Bar Association to develop this book. This is a book that explains all the different interactions of military service and civilian law in a non-legal format, so you can actually read it. And then we did, with LexisNexis, the lawyer's version, so use it to prop up the corner of your desk. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a distinct privilege to welcome the captain. Thank you all for coming. I understand Senator and Congresswoman will be sticking around for a bit, and I'm sure you're off to your next event very shortly. Yes? Well, hopefully we'll have, if you all would just give us a few moments, we wanted to give William and Kelsey a quick chance to have a tour to explain the post-traumatic stress disorder sensitive design that this clinic embraces. And where's Chad? A quick shout out to the architect who we made crazy, Chad Harrell, for his design work here. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sure. Kelsey, would you like to come with?